Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Blackjack series. Today we will start building the foundations of our Blackjack simulator by dealing out all the initial cards for the other players, yourself and the dealer. This video is also a follow-on from the last video, which was on the basics of Blackjack and even going into card counting. So if you haven't watched that video yet, I would definitely recommend. So getting into it, we need to begin by creating a few variables and defining some initial values for our Blackjack. So first we need to create a list that will give us all the possible combinations of a 52 deck of cards, all coded as the value followed by the suit. So 2 of diamonds is 2D, for example. We'll be using this list to give us our shoe of cards. We also need to know how many decks of cards are in the shoe. So for example, we will go with a 6 deck Blackjack. So variable decks we're going to set to 6. We also need to find how much money we are going to take to the table, and I will just take 100,000 for now. Now, to create the shoe itself, we need to make a function that when we call it, it returns back a new shoe. So let's call the function reshuffle. The only variable we will be receiving is how many decks are in the shoe. We will start by defining our list that will keep all the cards in, cards left. Now, using a for loop to repeat for the number of decks we will add, we then put in cards left dot extend, then in brackets the number of decks. This will make our cards left list the equivalent of 6 unshuffled decks on top of each other. This is better than using append, because append will keep adding new lists on top, as this will just make it all one list. Which obviously we now need to shuffle this list. So we have 6 unshuffled decks on top of each other. So scrolling up to the top, here we're going to import random. Then inside the function again, we can use the random commands, random.shuffle, to completely randomly shuffle the cards left deck and then returning it. Perfect. Now we have our shoe that we can take cards out of just like in a regular game of Blackjack. With this shoe we can start a new hand and deal out all our initial cards. So once again we will create a new function called new hand. All we want to receive from this function is how much money we have and the cards left list. Any core game algorithms will be done in this hand, like deciding who wins, giving initial hands, and seeing if certain game rules are in play. So we will start off by defining that we have players equals 5, which means there are 5 other players in the game other than me. Next we will define 3 lists: cards, which will be the cards that the NPCs have, dealer, which is the dealer's cards, and players, which is the player's hand. And we can make multiple hands later, but that's for another video. So we start by making a list of P lists. We then will define our bet as a bet size, which is a variable we can initialize before we start. Next up, we need to take the top card off our cards left and place it into our hand. For this, we will create a function that receives in a hand and adds this card on and then removes that card from the deck. So we will create a function called takeCard. This function will receive the cards left in the shoe and the hands we will be adding to. So first we want to do is obvious, add the top card to the hand with hand.append cards left 0, because conveniently the top card is also the first one in the list. Then we delete the card from cards left with del cards left 0. Then return the cards left and the hand. Very simple. But we make this a function since we'll have to do this a lot in our code. It's also useful for when we do start card counting. Now, coming out that function and back into our new hand function, we want to give everyone 2 cards. So we start with a for loop to repeat twice. Then first we will take a card for the player. So we set cards left and player's hand to take card. and give the cards left and player's hand variables. Then we want to cycle through each NPC, for loop again with repetitions of how many NPCs. Then go through each of our lists inside our NPC's hands list and add a card like before. Then after this for loop, the dealer will do the same. Great. Outside the function, we can now call it with cards left money equals new hand cards left money. Then also making cards left equal to reshuffle and giving the number of decks. Now using VS Code, I can pause the code before it returns so we can have a look at our variables inside. So as you can see from this, we have our 5 NPCs hands, we have the dealer's hand which is a 3 of hearts and a 7 of diamonds, and finally the player's hand which is a 9 of hearts and a queen of spades. Perfect. So now to make it a bit more of a simulator, we are going to make it repeat new hand for a set number of times. So I begin with setting a number of repetitions variable, let's say 10,000. Then a holding variable to see what rep we are at, rep equals 0. Then we say while rep is less than or equal to repetitions, and also just in case we lose all our money, money is greater than 0, we will want to increase R by 1. So now this is now a loop that will repeat 10,000 times. Now inside we just call the new hand like we did before and run it. But then we run into an error. We have run out of cards in the deck. So we need to add in a point in the cards left that we reshuffle. In Blackjack terms, this is called the deck penetration. When in a later video we get into card counting, advantage players will actually prefer a game where they reshuffle quite late into the shoe. For this example, we will go for 80%. So I'm going to check if the length of cards left is less than or equal to the number of decks left, times 52, and times 0.2, which will give us that 80% deck penetration. This if statement will now happen if there is less than 20% of the original cards left. And this will cause a reshuffle just like what we did before. Now running this will make it play multiple hands, but at this point it just grabs the initial cards. So this is where next video will kick in. We're adding even more detail into our new hand function, adding game characteristics such as blackjack, dealer blackjack and insurance, and then defining another function which will take a hand and return back the number of value of the hand. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like the video and or subscribe to support the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.